Yeah, all these years, people thought that they were coming through the front door to get your guns, when really, in fact, they're coming through the back door to get them, and they're legislating them out of the hands of Americans. And that was one of the issues I was going to bring up with you, Larry, is guns at town hall meetings. At first, I wasn't sure if that was a good idea, because it just takes one, little incident to kind of wreck all of the progress that we might be making. It's debatable if we've made any, but we have. And then I read an article up on your website, and it reminded me all over again of H.R. 2640, which we fought so hard here about a year or two ago. President Bush signed that into law, which basically was nicknamed the Veterans Disarmament Act, because it does exactly that. It uses your medical records, your government medical records, to determine if you're fit to carry a gun and be able to enjoy the Second Amendment.
And now that the government stimulus bill put $20 billion on the table for computerizing everybody else's records, the Veterans Administration was already long at it, even before the law went into effect. Now other people are going to find out what happens when they go to buy a gun, renew a concealed carry permit. They're going to be told, oh, no, you're not worthy. And this is something that you can escape from right now if you pay cash on the barrel, don't submit an insurance claim, keep your records out of the medical system. That's a pretty high price to pay, perhaps, for your privacy and for your freedom. But you can do that right now. At least that's an option. But with socialized medicine, bye-bye.
Well, and there's a whole other angle to this, too, going back again to 2640, the NICS Improvement Act of, 2007 it was called, which is integrated into the H.R. 600, Obamacare. And that is, if you are on the government medical teat, so to speak, and you're now taking, antidepressants. Of course, everybody's depressed, and that's why if you look at Medicaid and Medicare for kids, the numbers are doubling and tripling every year for kids that are on these toxic drugs. But if you decide to take those because you've been convinced somehow by a guy in a white coat that you're depressed, you're not going to be able to have a gun anymore.
Exactly. And you throw that into the mix with the restraining order madness that a lot of jurisdictions just hand them out to both sides in a divorce proceeding until the dust has settled. Well, you're not allowed to have a gun while you got a restraining order against you. And again, no trial.
No.
It's just an accusation. Well, I saw him having a gun. We must put him in jail. Well, come on. So, you raised a very important issue about people at these mass meetings, these demonstrations near where the president is speaking. And I think they've done us a favor. This has been happening actually across the country for probably 3 years in different states and on college campuses, students going with empty holsters to dramatize, I'm defenseless thanks to your stupid rules and laws. And in other states, gun owners have been trying to draw attention to the fact that when I go out to eat in a restaurant and I'm packing a gun on my hip, the only thing that's going to happen is that there's going to be another dead chicken. I'm just going to eat my meal. That's all. And that's been pushing back this sensitivity training we've had through zero tolerance. Well, then folks show up at the presidential events and nothing happens. And it's the strangest thing that all the police officers and the Secret Service are there with their guns, and everybody's fine with that, and I don't think anybody's heart misses a beat. But a guy comes with his gun properly controlled, good gun control, it's in his holster, and one chap in Arizona had a rifle slung over his...
African-American man, yes.
Had it over his shoulder, muzzle down, didn't even have his hand on the gun, let alone the trigger. A very proper gun control. And somehow that is disturbing, and yet a sniper in a BDU up on top of a building, that's not disturbing?
I've actually been under Ted Kennedy's snipers before. I was talking about that before you came on. My only beef is that if these people are going to bring their guns to the town meetings, they should be mentioning the article that you had, what we just talked about here a few minutes ago, why health care and gun grabbing kind of go together, and why this is a definite political statement. It's not a separate issue. It is the same issue, and I'd like to see people using that as a talking point when the media and Chrissy Matthews surround them to get these evil white supremacists.
As I told a Christian Science Monitor reporter, I will have thought I've died and gone to heaven when I see these fellows with guns at the next rally at the next demonstration holding up a sign that says socialized medicine equals gun control.
And it's true. Well, everything equals gun control. There's a lot to talk about, and we just have, about 25, 30 minutes to do it. And I do appreciate you coming on. Again, we're with Larry Pratt from Gun Owners of America, gunowners.org. What about this one? I got this from another gun rights organization, the National Association of Gun Rights, who we've done some good work with. David Michaels, freshly nominated to be the next administrator of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, otherwise known as OSHA, believes that guns should be treated like asbestos and banned in the name of the public good.
You know, that's something that that's a battle that was fought back in the 80s when one of the best senators that's ever served in the U.S. Senate, Senator James McClure from Idaho, put that genie in the bottle by getting legislation specifically stripping the Consumer Product Safety Commission from using any of its powers to get into gun control. That the fact that you have a gun can't be in and of itself viewed as dangerous. They were trying to play all these sorts of games through that commission. So now it looks like we got the same battle on our hands because they've gone over to another entity.
Yeah, and you probably heard this as Cousin Barry was going into office. He had full disclosure on all of the people he'd be naming to his cabinet and, of course, some of these czars that we have now getting their position on gun rights. In other words, it was some kind of a vetting process that if anybody on his administration might be pro-gun, they'd be looked at very carefully and probably denied the position.
Well, apparently that was a more serious threat than the actual communist self-identification of some of these same people that and may not have even come before them because they may not have even asked for that information.
Going back to the communist thing, I mean, perestroika means reform, which is what we're getting here. And I've written an article almost now, maybe a year ago. We've been perestroika'd here in the United States.
Well, somebody had it right. And obviously, if they wrote it a year ago, they were talking about George Bush's contribution to socialism.
Which he certainly shouldn't be off the hook for. I think people are waking up, but we just see this happen every 4 to 8 years. A new guy comes in, new hope, new change, Larry, and less rights for Americans. Never fails. We'll come back. I want to talk about Blair Holt when we come back and some other issues that we've got to watch very closely. Larry Pratt is with us from Gun Owners of America. Deadline Live, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Please stay with us.
If you believe in redemption, I'm calling to you from another dimension.